All right, here we go. We're going to walk through how to set up TinkerCad circuits. So I'm in TinkerCad. If it doesn't take you to this page, you can click on the little tic-tac-toe looking TinkerCad deal and then go to circuits. And we're going to say create new design or create new circuit. Now, I've got some of the examples in the Google Classroom, and so I can kind of see that at the same time. I'm going to drag this guy. Let me minimize it, and I'll go split screen here. Then bring up my TinkerCad over here. A little bit of that where it's a little bigger. Move this out of my way. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in a breadboard. And it's the small breadboard, yes, right here. I'm going to drag it out. Now on my screen, I'm going to roll my mouse wheel so I can make that just a little bit smaller, okay? We can use either the 9-volt battery. There is a power supply. So I'll just use the 9-volt battery so it'll match kind of this. And you can see what we're building over here is a little series circuit. We've got 3 resistors, a 330, 500, 600 ohm, and a 9-volt battery. And then we're measuring the voltage across the first resistor. And I've got this circuit already built down here as an example. And what you'll do on your turn-in is you'll build this circuit and just snip a copy of your circuit below the picture of my circuit. Just all we're doing is just a little practice. I'm gonna bring it in, and I'll build it from this way just to make it a little bit different. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook my positive up there, and you can see I can go to one of those rails, pop that wire in, and I like to change it to red. You don't have to do that, but it makes it a little more visual for me. I'm gonna click there. I'm gonna change that one to black. So now I've got power run to this rail. You know, I don't have any negative run to that rail, and that's okay. I try to make the breadboard match the schematic as much as I can, and so I'll do that on this one. And I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna get me a resistor. And I'm going to place this resistor on this breadboard, and I'm going to go from this negative rail to this column right here. So I'm going from here to here. Now this right here, I've got resistor 1. I need to change the resistance value. One of the biggest mistakes is people do the 330 there, but they don't change this. It's automatically going to default to kilo ohms. So I'm going to change that to ohms. Okay. I'm going to bring in another one. This time, remember, there's no wires going across that gap in the center of the breadboard. So I'm going to put another one in there. It says this one needs to be 500. Need to change that from kilo ohms to ohms. And then lastly, I'll put this last one down here, and I got to go from there all the way down to this positive rail. And this one is 600. And I'm going to go ohms. Now, the last thing I need to do is put my multimeter in here. So I'll scroll down and I'll find a multimeter. And we're just going to take that voltage across the first one. It tells me I'm measuring voltage. And I'm going to go from this side of the resistor. Now, on the TinkerCad, I can put 2 wires in the same hole. Obviously, we can't do that on a breadboard, but it will let you do it in TinkerCad. And that could come down on this side of the resistor. And now if I hit play, it should tell me a value, and we'll see what that looks like. It says negative 2.07, and that's just because I've got the positive and the negative sides of that multimeter flipped. Don't worry about that. Just take the absolute value. I don't necessarily always like, to make it read a positive value, I would disconnect this, and I would hook this wire to the positive side, this wire to the negative side, and I'd cross the streams there. And we learned in Ghostbusters to never cross the streams. But you can do it like that if that bothers you, and that'll give you the positive value. Same difference. I just want to show you the two different ways. Now let's say if I wanted to measure current in this guy. Remember, in a series, our current is always the same, and we need to put our multimeter for measuring amperage or current in series. This one is in parallel. I've got a path for the electricity that flows through the resistors, and then there's also a separate path that comes up here to the multimeter. So this multimeter is in parallel with that resistor. But if I'm measuring current, I have to have it in series. So I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to rotate it around. And remember, typically the way my rule of thumb is, if you're measuring current, you better unplug something. So I'll just unplug this red wire. And I'm going to run it to there. And then I'm going to run this guy here and reconnect that up. Now, if I hit play, I'll get my current total once again. Oh, before I do that, I need to change that to amperage. There we go. And it tells me it's, remember, I just care about the absolute value. So 6.29 milliamps. So there you go. That's a little quick tutorial on how to use that, and I hope it helps.